Hi, I'm Greg Hackney. I want to tell you a couple things today about, shallow cranking, things that I may do a little different than a lot of people out there. I'm a huge fan of a square bill. I like to fish shallow. I like to power fish, fishing grass. A new square bill, the Strike King has out is the new 4.0. I mean, probably the biggest selling square bill ever made is a 1.5, a 2.5. I mean, they're just household baits. Everybody has one. But something new to our line is a 4.0. And what I like about it, the same place that I've been putting a 1.5 or a 2.5, now I can throw a big bait. Because I'm one of those people who believe that big fish eat big baits, or fish in general eat big baits. A 2-pound bass will eat a half a pound bluegill. I mean, that's the reason like a largemouth has such a big mouth, because they feed on large forage. And so I like that, having a bait with a big size that I can throw on laydowns, over grass beds, around boat docks. Another big key of being able to do that right is having the right equipment. I am a firm believer in a composite rod, in a rod that is not all graphite. You need a rod that loads well, it's got enough soft. You don't want a rod, the same rod that you use to jig fish with, or a rod that's made of that material, is not what you want for a crankbait. You want that fish, when you feel him on that rod, you want him to have that bait engulfed. You don't want to feel him when he first touches it, because you'll have a tendency to want to set the hook too quick. So you want a rod that loads up well. Another thing about having that a graphite composite rod, fishing around wood, you won't get hung near as much, because it goes back to the reaction. It'll have a lot softer reaction than a graphite rod, where you'll want to do that and it'll get you hung. The other key is having good fluorocarbon line. I do 99% of my cranking with gamma fluorocarbon, gamma edge fluorocarbon. It's strong, it's dense, it makes the rod sensitive enough just by using the fluorocarbon that you don't need that graphite rod. The other thing about having a composite rod is accuracy. That rod loads up, it casts well. But a big key, the difference, if I was cranking a laydown with a 1.5, I use a 7-foot Tour KVD in a medium action. Now with this, another big key is having the right rod. If you go to that 4.0, I use a heavy action, or at least a medium heavy. Same rod, same action, just a little more rod, because what you don't want to happen is, you don't want to fish a rod that the bait will work you. If you match the right rod and reel combo to the bait, it takes the work out of it. So it's really just as effortless to throw a 4.0 as it is a 1.5 if your equipment's right. If you use a rod that's too small and too limber, you won't like those big plugs. The same thing in cranking a 10XD or an 8XD. You cannot use the same rod that you throw a Series 5 on. You have to go to a bigger rod. You let the rod do the work. You let the reel do the work. That's another key deal. I like a big spool reel. This is a Smoke HD 200. It's got a wide spool. It's a 200. I know the 100 reels are real popular because they're small and they're lightweight. Well, now Quantum has come out with a reel that's just as light as those 100s, but it has big reel features. It's got big handles. I want to be able to crank and power. When I get that fish, I want to be able to handle him. But that big spool, I can cast farther if I need to make long casts. But the other thing is I can cast efficiently. The deal is, the size of that spool is how fast it turns. The bigger the spool, it turns slower. It's not as apt to burn your finger. That's the reason you don't want them big plugs on a small reel with a small spool, because the spool will have to turn twice as fast to get that lure out there. And those are just a couple things that I do. I'm gonna go back one more time and say one more thing about that 4.0. You can put big hooks in it. I'm a big tackle guy. I want to be efficient. When I catch a fish, typically there's $1 on the line, and I want every advantage that I can have over that fish. So I like big equipment, I like powerful equipment. And again, using the right equipment, matching the right equipment to your lure will make you a better angler.